Hey everybody, welcome to Martinis with Scott. I'm going to do a super quick episode today for two reasons. One is I'm traveling and I got to get out of here and get back to the airport. Cheers, by the way, if you're having a drink. I've got to get to the airport. And secondly, my Apple battery is dying quickly because it doesn't hold the charge anymore. And I seem to have lost my power supply in my travels here somewhere. So we may get cut off at one point. Hi to whoever has joined us on Martinis with Scott here on YouTube live stream. So we're going to be quick. This week, I've fallen into the bad habit of not doing a show for you at all when I've been traveling. And I want to break that habit and get you something even when I'm not in my nice and comfortable podcast studio. So I did a show a couple episodes now on mental filters, and the idea there, excuse me, was that the idea there is the human brain, we don't operate by taking all of the information that is available to us, all of the facts, the objective facts, and then reasoning and making decisions based on those facts. That's not how we operate as humans. What we do is we create patterns. We have cognitive bias, and we create patterns, and we seek facts that fit our patterns. We look for shortcuts, and we manipulate facts that go against our patterns. And that's what these mental filters are that I've talked about before. So I started a book this week, an audio book, as I often do, because I saw a post by one of the founders of Shopify, a massive, globally successful company. I don't know, would you describe them as a competitor to Amazon? Probably, right? Anyways, similar sort of thing. And one of the founders of this extraordinarily valuable company said that he relied on two books to learn about business. And one of them, I'll tell you the two books when we have more time. But one of these books was this book that I'm going to reference, which is called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini, Cialdini. Now, I'm going to do a more thorough review of this book on a future episode because, as I said, we're running out of time right now. I'm running out of time and battery quickly. But this is a book that I've heard about as I study persuasion. I've heard about a lot. I think Robert Cialdini is apparently the godfather of clinical research in the idea of sales and persuasion. And the premise of this book, which I think is so far terrific, I'm not done the book, so I can't give you a full review yet. But the premise of the book is that when they do a bunch of animal studies, that the animals, the reaction, the routine that they run, whether that be enter into combat, that are going to fight, or who to mate, when to mate, so fight, flight, mate, that the animal studies that they have show that those reactions, those routines that those animals undergo follow a trigger, that there's something that sets them off. It's not an evaluation of the whole scenario going on around them, of all the objective facts that their senses are picking up, but rather a specific trigger that when that happens in that situation, it drives them into the routine of fighting, of mating, or trying to mate, or flight, run away, whatever that is. And so he gives examples of a bird, a robin, and that when another robin comes in with a red breast, I forget what the specific example of, whether they were fighting or mating or what they were doing, but the scientists are able to trick that animal by providing the same color, in this instance, the red, the same trigger, and generate that routine even with an inanimate object, right? So it's really about the trigger of the color in that case, or the trigger of the sound, or the trigger of whatever that generates the routine. It's like our brains are a software system, and bang, that's how you turn on this specific routine, which is an interesting way to think about it. And then the rest of the book, it seems to me, is about triggers, because humans operate the same way, the same as these animal studies show. And so the triggers that he talks about are the law of reciprocity, which is about giving value first. Doing a favor first creates an obligation, a sense of obligation in the human mind to respond, to get rid of that feeling of debt, of obligation that was created. And you've always heard in business about give value first. Well, that's what that law of reciprocity is about, that trigger of reciprocity. One is about liking that, you know, um, that the person that you're dealing with, the person that is trying to influence you, has to be likable to you. And there's triggers, there's ways to make yourself more likable that he covers in the book. One example would be common interests, right? So, you always hear about going golf or going out for dinner, but these sort of common interests create a sense of likability. A huge one would be social proof. And the idea here is that when humans are faced with uncertainty, they look to other people's behaviors as guidance for what to do. They don't try to evaluate whether those other people are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. They just follow them. It's just herd mentality. And there's all sorts of research and scientific studies as to how that happens. And so social proof comes down to your ratings on social media, it comes down to role models, celebrity actors, this type of thing. Authority, people respond and are influenced by authority figures. And there's all sorts of scientific studies he points out of, fake doctors who are able to trick even nurses into prescribing things that they shouldn't be prescribing, and they know better, but just based on the authority title, on the title of doctor, and then that these nurses go ahead and do what they shouldn't be doing or got close to it before they were stopped in the study. Reminder, as I see my battery light draining here, that we may get cut off at some point, and if we do, we'll pick this up another day. And so authority also comes down to how you dress, the title that you have, uniforms, which of course is how you dress. So that would be another triggering that causes humans to run a routine, that gives you significant influence. Scarcity, right? This is your last chance to buy this. This is your last chance to do whatever. We're running out. Is a very strong influencer trigger. 2 chapters I haven't got to yet. I actually haven't got to the scarcity one yet either. But the last 2 would be commitment and consistency, which is going to tell me, I'm certain, that in persuasion, you just want to be repeating the same simple message over and over and over and over. And when you do that, that becomes more persuasive than a one-time complicated argument. And unity is the idea of being on the same team, that we're going to be more influenced by people who we perceive to be on our team. So I think this is a fascinating book. I think you should pick it up. I have 17% battery, which I'm certain is going to drop to 0 in about 2 minutes here. But let me tell you about an experience I had today along the lines of this. So I'm working with a company, a troubled company. I'm not going to give any details at this point because it's somewhat confidential. The company's been in serious difficulty. It continues to operate. And some of the company's key customers were really just finding out about this because prior management of this trouble, because prior management had, let's say, hid the troubles and hadn't disclosed this to the customers. So I met one of the key customers of this business today. They had a couple of individuals fly in from different countries, went through all the COVID paperwork to get here, and they got here, and we met with them yesterday and this morning. And so they sent to me an agenda in advance that was really just had this tone of, there's going to be a serious audit in the manufacturing, because what in this industry they sole source, right? So you're sole sourcing this, and it's one piece of a huge component. So if we screw up, if this company screws up, the customer is in trouble because they don't get that one little piece, then they can't do anything either. And so it's a big problem. And they sent up an agenda, which was really, we want to know what's going on. We want to know if we want to continue to work with you type of feel to it when I read it. And probably in reality, and if I were in their shoes, I'd be very concerned as well, given the lack of disclosure and integrity from the prior management. So when they showed up, and we sat down at a meeting. I had thought about this beforehand. By the way, these two fellows turned out to be just wonderful, wonderful people, and we had a great day and a half with them, and everything went great. And they're going to be of super help. But this could have gone with two ways. When I first sat down with them, I thought, well, should I push back? Should I argue with them? Should I say you're wrong? Everything's great here, and when you go back, you're gonna into the plant. You're gonna find everything's awesome. Should I take responsibility for things, even though I don't own the business and I wasn't the one running the place? How should I handle this? And so the way I handled it is I always tell you about persuasion. I always tell you to pace and lead, and pacing and leading is the pace part of pace and lead means if someone has a preconceived notion about like a cognitive bias about a certain situation, it's not going to pay you. It's not going to do you any good to get into an argument on the premise of why they're there. Like I can't just sit down with this customer and say, "Oh, you're wrong. Everything's fine. Get lost." I tell you this about the bank before. When troubled companies go into the bank and they just say, "Hey, everything's awesome. I don't know why you're treating us so badly." You just see that all the time as a banker. Well, it's the same thing, and so the right thing to do in that situation when you have a bit of a crisis is I think what I did, which is I said, look, I don't own this business, and I don't know. I've only been here 2 days, which was true. I said, I don't know what's going on out back and how bad it's going to be, but this company's been in financial trouble for a long, long, long time, and I suspect it's not going to be good. I suspect you're going to find a lot of things. And to be honest with you, my job here, my position here is to make sure that you continue to get production. And the way I view this is that you or I are in this shit together, right? And so if you want to help me help you, then that's amazing. And we're going to give you open up everything. You just wander around, do what you need to do, walk through your agenda, find all the faults. And the reason I think that's so amazing for me is because at the end, I hope I get a report with with all of the bullet points that we need to fix. And then I'm excited to have you back 3 months from now and show you how much progress we have made. It's like you're doing my due diligence for me, which is from my perspective amazing. But if you're going to come in and you think you're going to do an audit and list out 8 million little detailed points that are offside with whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, I'm just not interested, because I'm already telling you that it's not going to be great. It's not going to be great. So our job is to take it at face value, to work together because we're in this together. And you tell me what you think is wrong, that's material, that is going to cause you problems at your end, and I'm going to fix it for you. And if you can help me fix it, all the better. But we're not hiding anything from you. And what I ask from you is that you be receptive. My Mac is going to sleep now. It tells me if I don't get this plugged in, which I've already told you I can't. So I expect we're going to get cut off. I gave that pitch. Long story short, they went through their 2 days. They found all sorts of terrible things. And I left today, and the fellow looked at me and he said, we have a bunch of issues, but we have one serious issue. And if this was a normal audit, we would shut down production right now. But I understand the position we're in. I understand together, you and me, I understand the position. And what we're going to do is you need to focus on that first, and we're going to help you do that. Here's some ideas to get that done. And we're running out a report for you right now. Brian, thanks for joining. I'm about to lose battery right now. I'm traveling. I've lost my power supply. I'm out of here. And so join in next week and throw me some questions in the comments, and I'll try to address them for you. Sorry, we're cutting off short. And I had more to this story. I wanted to, I think next time we're on, I'm going to redo the story, and I'm going to compare what I did in my conversation with these people back to Giardini's list of triggers. And it's interesting to me that inadvertently, I wasn't thinking about this, but inadvertently, I actually hit almost every single point on that list in my presentation and how I handled this meeting. And I think it was a tremendous success, which may have nothing to do with how I handle it. Maybe it's just because these guys are awesome guys, which I think they are. So, but I'm happy with it. Thought I'd share that with you. Trying to get you some content while I'm traveling. We'll talk to you again shortly. Thank you for joining this quick live stream.